Well, hello, everybody. It's the Pearlo Wisdom Show, and I'm here even on a holiday. Yes, I am. I don't know how many people are also going to be here on a holiday, but if you are, it's going to be exciting. Got a big trade. It's going to be fun. How's everybody doing today? Game last night. Montreal should have won. They didn't. Outplayed Tampa Bay pretty much the whole game. Vasilevsky won them that game. And it's going to be really interesting going back to Montreal now because Montreal is going to have confidence now. Montreal will have some confidence going into this game on tomorrow night. They'll have confidence knowing that they can outplay Tampa Bay now. Even though they lost, just to know that you could keep up with Tampa Bay and play as good as Tampa Bay and even better than Tampa Bay. Hey, Mercer, how you doing? Welcome, man. Let me set up my phone here so I can talk to you guys. Oh, I forgot my freaking paperwork. Sasha, how you doing? I forgot to get my pen and stuff like that. So, Lemon, everybody's in the house. Woo! There we go. Jacket. Wow, we got everybody here. So, yeah, Montreal should have won last night. Simple as that. They outplayed them fairly handily. It was really surprising, actually. And now they're going to have confidence going home. I'm pretty confident in saying Montreal wins that game in Montreal, the first game. I think that's probably going to be the case. I don't even think Price played bad. Like, this is just a case where Tampa Bay just got the bounces. You get outshot 43-23. You shouldn't be feeling too good about yourself. That's for sure. And Montreal should be feeling good about themselves. So they get to go back to Montreal on I still feel like you got to be on a bit of a high, even though you're down 2-0. You're going home. You outplayed them the last game. You know you can beat them now. They put in Joseph. Tampa Bay put in Joseph. Joseph only played 16 minutes and 23 seconds. I don't think it's a sweep. I don't think so. I mean, I suppose it could be, but Montreal's going to be riding a high going home. I really think they're feeling good about themselves now. They let the door open for Montreal to have some confidence going home. Who did they play? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so their whole defense played last night. Vasilevsky was just a beast. And, I mean, what are you going to do? I wouldn't be surprised if they win both game 3 and 4. My original prediction of Tampa in 7 could be true. And like I said, I said this whole time I was not going to be, for sure not going to be underrating Montreal at all. Montreal plays like they never give up because they truly believe they can win every game. They play like they can win every game, like they have the confidence that they can win every game. Dano played almost 19 minutes, but really also the thing with Montreal is they're playing all their players pretty equal. I suppose Tampa Bay kind of is too, but they've got a couple guys like Colton only played 6 minutes last night. The guys that are getting the most minutes on Tampa Bay are, oddly enough, is Sorelli and Yanni Gort. They had they played almost 20 minutes. Kucherov only played 15 minutes last night. So you telling me he's healthy? Like, I think they're taking it easy. I think they're taking it easy on Kucherov. So that tells me he's not all that healthy. Stamkos only played 15 minutes. Braden Point, Sorelli played more minutes than Braden Point, and he had 12 penalty minutes. So interesting stuff. Blake Coleman played 17 minutes, scored a goal last night too. Interesting use of players. It tells you a lot about who may be injured and who may not be injured. But Montreal pretty much plays everybody almost the same amount of minutes. Dano and Suzuki, the two, of course, two big centers, are the only ones that get 18 minutes. Oh, Toffoli gets 19. As far as defensemen, though, Montreal uses their defensemen pretty heavy, but so does Tampa Bay. Sherratt's getting 20. Sherratt's getting the most minutes out of any defenseman. Yeah, we're going to talk to Arvidsson getting traded for sure. Yeah, there's probably injuries here. That's how I look to see where maybe injuries might be cropping up. When you start seeing things like Sorelli playing that kind of minutes, it makes you wonder for sure. Make sure you're tapping that like, everybody, on the way in. That helps out get more people in here, and it's more fun with more people. The best game they ever could in game two? I don't know. I don't know about that. Tampa Bay, I think Tampa Bay took them a little easy, to tell you the honest truth, and they got up on them early, and then they were kind of chasing the game a little bit, which is really surprising. The only question is Tampa in 4 or 5. Jackets still saying all over Tampa, not giving any respect to Montreal, even though Montreal has surprised all the way along here. I don't know, dude. It's the thing for me, no matter what. I got to take Tampa Bay just because of Vasilevsky. Price has been amazing this playoffs, but Vasilevsky is one of the best goaltenders I've ever seen. You hope they win him in 6. No, I love Jacket for that though. I love Jacket because Jacket states exactly, like, he's not afraid to put himself out there. He'll just say flat out, this is what I think. And Jacket's right quite a bit, so that's why we got the great hockey nerds here. Let's see my title today, the Hockey Nerds Random Discussion Frolic. Yeah, hockey nerds, man. I don't know what more to say about that game. Uh, besides Montreal, just you can look at every. I listen to some shows and they go over and they talk about the game for like an hour, and it's like so redundant. Like, we all watched it. Suzuki had 9 shots on goal though. Suzuki played fantastic. Anderson again played really well. Caulfield only had 2 shots. They did limit Caulfield down a little bit. I didn't notice Caulfield quite as much last night as I've noticed the previous ones. Oh yeah, we can talk about that. Duncan Keith getting traded. Duncan Keith has come out. I don't know if you guys know this. Duncan Keith has come out and said he'd be open to a trade as long as it was to a Western team. He's from the Penticton area in British Columbia, and that there is, that leaves Edmonton, Vancouver, Winnipeg would probably be further, or maybe Seattle. I should have my gear on. Maybe Seattle. I wonder, can you guys hear me all right? Because I didn't have my things on. Sometimes you can't hear me. Um, Maybe Seattle. So I think Vancouver would probably find a way. I just have a feeling. Chicago would probably have to retain. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Chicago would probably have to retain, but I think Vancouver will try to make that work. He'd be able to play in Vancouver. They do kind of need defensemen. They could definitely use defensemen. Let's look it up. Cap friendly. Shall we? Let's look it up. Where do you guys think he goes? He's going to either Vancouver, Edmonton, or... Yeah, Edmonton could do it, but he does hold all the cards. So I'm pretty sure Travis Hamonic is leaving first. Is Duncan Keith a lefty or a righty? I thought he was a righty. Let's make sure about that. Chicago Blackhawks. Where the heck are you? I'm looking up on Cap Friendly here now. Where's the Chicago Blackhawks? They should be like hardly any cap space. There we go. I found it. Duncan Keith is a left defenseman. That could be a bit of a problem. I think Vancouver's heavy on left defenseman, but I'll check just to make sure. If Chicago retains $2 million or something, he's making $5.25 million a year. At this stage, he was playing 23 minutes last year. So, I mean, he can still pull some pretty good minutes. The other place you could consider, if Vancouver can't make it work, and I'm going to look up Vancouver to see if they can, is Seattle. Seattle's not far either. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump. Edmonton's a little far. Edmonton's like 12, 14 hours driving, but it's a short flight. So I know Hamonic, apparently they're not bringing Hamonic back. And Hamonic has said he'll go anywhere. Oh yeah, no, there's a spot for him. He can play on left D. Yeah, I think he'll end up in Vancouver. Vancouver will give him like a third or a fourth. Cap space wise, like he could help out Hughes. He's a two-time Norris Trophy winner. I mean, he can help out Hughes. He can help out their young guys there. Yeah, Vancouver seems like the best spot for him. I wouldn't say that's way too much. I think he played actually fairly well. He's a 23-minute guy who still plays good defense. He's good at moving the puck out. But Chicago could, it's only a 2-year deal. Chicago could retain. Let's see what Vancouver has. I know Vancouver's not doing well cap-wise, though. So that would be the major problem. Oh my. Projected cap space $15 million. And they have to re-sign. They got to re-sign Brock Besser next year. Yeah, they can do it. they got to re-sign Edler this year. They'll let Travis Hamonic go. And, Quinn Hughes has got to get a contract this year. It would be beautiful if they could line up Quinn Hughes for like $8 million for 8 years right now. I don't know if Quinn Hughes would do that. He himself probably doesn't want to do that. Even $10 million for 8 years. But that would eat up all their cap space. But if Chicago retains $2 million, they could probably, give up a third-round pick and get Duncan Keith. I'd say that's a good deal. I think that's good. They'll work out something. I think he's going to Vancouver. That's what I think. Coyotes have a new head coach, Tierney. He was a general manager in the OHL and a coach lately. We'll see how he works out. I've heard nothing but great things about Andre Tierney. So, I mean, if he works out as good as the last French coach hired from Montreal, Ducharme, then they're laughing. I do know that Armstrong is a pretty smart hockey guy there in Arizona. I think he's going to do good things in Arizona. So he probably knows what he's doing for Tierney. I guess. So anyways, I think he's going to go to Vancouver. We'll see. It's the perfect spot for him. It's where he wants to go, and Vancouver's got a spot. So, and especially if Chicago can retain even $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that. Because, I mean, they could really use some, even though Edler then would play, they'd sign Edler for cheap. The only problem with this deal is that Rathbone and Juolevi are not going to have a spot. That could be a problem because they probably want to get these guys a lot of ice time and get them progressing. That would be the only thing I could see being difficult. Schmidt can go to the right side, although I hear they're looking to trade him. Maybe that would be good. Keith can play with Schmidt. And then Rathbone and Juolevi, I guess, if there's injuries or whatever the case may be, they can play that. I think Vancouver is where he wants to go, and they got a spot. I think he'll end up there. I think Chicago's going to want to make sure he's happy too. So they're not going to be worried whether they get a third or a second. If it's about a player being happy where he's going, they'll take the third and not worry about the fact that they could get a second maybe somewhere else. Chicago's always been like that. It's a great way to make sure you've got to take care of your players. If you don't, you'll never sign free agents. You can't just treat them like commodities that are not real. So I think he ends up in Vancouver. Everybody's, I think Chicago would want him to go to Vancouver because that's where he wants to go because of what he's done for their organization. I think, of course, he wants to. And I think Vancouver can definitely see some value in bringing him in. So Arvidsson, let's go look at the Arvidsson deal now. Arvidsson to LA. Okay, you got a second and third to LA. Or second, he's making $4.25 million for the next 3 years. He has been having injury problems the last 2 years. Now, in 2018-19, he had 41 points in 58 games, which is good. He was a 35-goal scorer. But since then, with the injury problems, things have not been good for Arvidsson. I know the Nashville fans are upset that they only got a second or third, but I think they did really well. Considering they didn't have to retain any money. Now, LA must know something about his injury that most people don't know because that's actually quite a bit to give up for a $4 million player that only put up half a point a game, 40 point a 40-point pace on an 82-game season last year. Uh, to me, that's not very good. Uh, that's a lot to give up on that return at $4.25 million to a second and a third. So I'm sure they've talked to the doctors and whatever the case may be, and they must have some reassurance that Arvidsson's going to be healthy. I don't think he'll ever get another 30-goal season after this. I could be wrong. If he does, they just hit a home run. They just hit a home run here if he gets back to where he was before. But at this point, it's an if. So Nashville, who owns his rights now, they obviously are concerned about whatever the injuries might have been. Also, I think that Nashville's going to be going for a home run here somewhere. They give up $4 million. What's their cap space like? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right now. Nashville made the trade. We'll look at Nashville's cap space. I'm actually kind of surprised by LA here. They must have a... Hey, CO, how you doing? I'm actually surprised by this trade. I really thought LA was going to go for bigger fish, and maybe they still will. But Arvidsson's a big question mark to me. It's 2 years now. He hasn't had a great year. And he's making over $4 million a year. The way he's playing right now, I would put him like a third liner that could be, he's declining. I watched him last year. A lot of games he didn't really look that good. But LA must see something that other people don't. They must know something about his injury. Anything could happen with Arvidsson, yeah. I think it's a lot to give up. Now, they had a lot of second rounders to give up. They had 3. No, sorry, what am I talking about? No, they didn't. I'll have to check that out. So now Nashville's got 2 second rounders this year and 2 third rounders next year. The question for Nashville is, what are they going to do? Their next move is going to tell a lot. Either Nashville is rebuilding, or they're making cap space for a big move. You think they're going to totally rebuild, Weichel? So they're going to trade away. They're going to try to trade away Ryan Johansson, which they're going to have to retain for that. They could do it now. Okay, let's look at their cap space. Jeez, I'm all over the place today. What's their cap space? Projected cap space now is $22 million. They got a lot. And they really have, unless they want to keep Granlund, they don't have too much to sign up for here. Granlund was one of their better players last year. Next year, Philip Forsberg needs a contract, so that'll be interesting. If they're going to rebuild, they trade Philip Forsberg right now. They would have to trade Philip Forsberg right now. They'd have to retain salary. They'd have to retain salary with Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene, a lot of salary, to get rid of those contracts. I mean, that would be terrible. They couldn't really do it. CL, you want Forsberg in Philly would be fantastic. It's only on a 1 year, too. Yeah, Forsberg, I'm sure a lot of teams would be in on Forsberg. The Leafs, yeah, they could. The Leafs would make sense. I mean, just about any team looking for the Oilers, Any team that has enough cap space that could fit in a Forsberg would be happy to take a Forsberg. Dallas, if they can fit him in. You could really just go down the list of any team that would love to have a Philip Forsberg. If they can work out a deal where they can re-sign him, a team can work out a deal to re-sign him, they could probably get a pretty good return. I think they're going to try to retain salary on Ryan Johansson. And I think they're going to go after a big-time center or something like that. I don't think they got the pieces to get an Eichel, though. The good thing about it is if they trade Forsberg, I don't see why you would, though, because he's only 26 years old. Even if you're going to do a rebuild, you might as well sign him up, and he'll be there for. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But unless Philip Forsberg wants to go somewhere else, so that's we don't know. So, I said, and I was the one that just said you have to trade Philip Forsberg, but I don't think you have to. He's only 26 years old, so you might not have to trade Philip Forsberg if you're going to do a rebuild. It's a tough roster to do anything with, to tell you the honest truth. Matt Duchene is now a winger. They're going to play him on the wing all the time. You got Ryan Johansson. Luke Cunnin is as a second-line center. I think they're going to go after a center. I just don't know who it would be because there's nobody on the free agent market anymore. So it would probably have to be in the form of a trade. In which case, even who's even out there for a center for a trade, to tell you the honest truth. If Arizona's going to burn it all down, you could try to get Dvorak out of Arizona. Taylor Hall's staying in Boston. The more I hear about it, the more I listen to Sirius Radio and a lot of things out there, the more I'm hearing Taylor Hall stays in Boston. Another thing that you got to look at there, I think, is how are they looking for how is Nashville looking for the expansion draft? Because now they got 1, 2, 3, Luke Cunnin's 4. They could keep Yarncroc 5. Trennan 6. Maybe Nick Cousins. And then 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they're not giving up too much. I think Matthew Benning is probably gone. I think Matthew Benning will probably be picked up unless they trade him before. Which is possible too. But that leaves them one more spot because they would have had to give up. Probably they would have had to leave Nick Cousins exposed or Yakov Trenin. Now they can protect all of them. Eli Tolvanen, shoot, they got to protect him too. So, yeah, this helps out them for protecting for the expansion draft. Now for LA, what does getting Arvidsson do for their expansion draft? Because they're going to have to protect Arvidsson now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Brendan Lemieux is whether they want to or not. 1, 2, 3. Adrian Kempe's 4. Gabriel Velarde's 5. I don't think they have to protect Dolan. Carl Grundstrom is 6. And Athanasiou is 7. So they're still okay. They might have to leave out Trevor Moore or something like that. The problem they might have, Doughty, Waugh, McDermott. Yeah, they're not going to have to give up too much in expansion still after making that deal. So works out pretty good for them that way. I just think it's a little heavy. Oh yeah, I think they should keep Hall, but then you got to sign Krejci. If Boston keeps Hall, they got to sign Krejci or get another center. And I don't know if you're going to get a better center than Krejci out there, to tell you the honest truth, for the money you're going to be paying Krejci. And then they have to get defensemen. It's absolutely useless for them to sign those guys and not get a defenseman. They got to get somebody to help McAvoy out there. He's like, oh yeah, they got Dante Fabro. I forgot about that. I wonder if, like I said, it's a constant rumor that Ekholm will get traded eventually. It's been going on now for 3 years, though, and he never gets traded. Is this the year, finally, that they trade Ekholm before the expansion draft? Again, the problem with trading before the expansion draft is the team taking him also has to protect him for the expansion draft. So yeah, I forgot about Dante Fabro. Dante Fabro's a restricted free agent too. They got to re-sign him if they're going to keep him. I think they keep Fabro. He's only 23 years old. It depends on what their assessment is. He didn't have a great year last year. But, I mean, his progression looked like it was going to be pretty darn good. Now, Ekholm is a left defenseman. Yeah, where could we trade? Where could Ekholm get traded? Because there would be a lineup for Ekholm still. Like, the fact that he didn't have the greatest year aside, there would still be a pretty darn good, I think, like, New Jersey Devils. How much is Ekholm making for? They'd have to take a player back, I think, if they traded him to Edmonton. Sure, I'd love to have him in Edmonton, don't get me wrong. But what's his contract look like? Okay, he's only making 3.7, and he's a UFA after that. Wow. I mean, it all depends on, yeah, because either that or you got to trade Fabro. You got to trade one of the two. You got to sign, you can sign Fabro for the same amount of money as Ekholm right now. Ekholm's going to be a UFA next year. Yeah, I'd say Ekholm is going to get traded. Detroit would be a good one. But wherever he's traded, they got to have a pretty good idea that they can re-sign him, or you're not going to get much back. I mean, he's basically a rental at this point. So I don't know. It's such a dilemma because if I'm Ekholm, right, and I know I'm going to get traded, do I want to tip my hand and say, okay, I'll sign with that team? Because if I do, then that team is going to have to give up more. So I'm going to weaken my team that I'm going to, because I'm going to say that I'm going to sign there. Now, that being said, if it's the place you want to go And you don't want to go somewhere you don't want to go and then have to move again. So for his own personal family and everything, it would depend on where he wants to go. Now, that being said, he doesn't have a no trade clause, so they can trade him anywhere. But he practically has a no trade clause because he's going to be a UFA soon. I don't know. I mean, Yarncroc only made $2 million, and he loves it in Nashville. That's why he took the $2 million deal. I have a feeling they're going to re-sign him. He's like Mr. Nashville. He took a sweet deal. Cal Yarncroc, you think about that. He took I think it was an 8-year or something like that for, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years for $2 million straight across. And he had seasons of 35 points in, 34 points in 64 games. Last year he had 28 points in 49 games. That's not huge, but it's worth way more than $2 million. He left a lot of money on the table to stay in Nashville. Yarncroc did. So I have a feeling they're going to re-sign him. When a guy does that sort of thing, teams don't like to trade those guys away because he gave up a lot of money to stay there. So he'll probably get a similar deal, maybe like 2.5 or 3 million for another 5 years or something like that. And he'll be just happy. I saw an interview with them and he said he just, money, he can invest money and make more money in many ways. His family loved Nashville. They didn't want to leave Nashville. And he doesn't want to move his family all over the place. So he just wanted to put his roots down and stay there. And that's what he did. He left a lot on the table. So I don't think you're going to see Yarncroc leaving Nashville. I think they'll work out another deal for him. But Ekholm is an interesting guy. Now, you said trade to Edmonton. Do you want to go to Edmonton? Do you really? After living in Nashville all this time? I think all right, let's take a look at it again. I think Ekholm is going to be the guy. Now, if they don't trade Ekholm, that means they're not rebuilding. That's a good thing to look at because they're going to protect him if they don't trade him. So that would mean Fabro is out and they're trading Fabro, which case to me, that means they're not rebuilding or they don't like the way Fabro's progressing. Seattle would be a good place for Ekholm, but I think Seattle is not going to be taking on too many veteran guys like that because I think they're going to be looking to, Seattle, the Kraken's going to be in the tank for a couple of years. I really think they're going to be building through the draft and stuff like that. So I don't know if they're going to take some big names like that. Philadelphia Flyers I think the Philadelphia Flyers would be a good play. I would rather take Ekholm at the money he's going to make than Jones. The only thing with that is, with the Philadelphia Flyers, is he's a lefty. I don't know. They could work a lefty. Oh, Sanheim and Provorov, right? They've already got Sanheim and Provorov. That would be the biggest thing there, is he's a lefty. Nobody's taking Zach Parise, not in a million years, I don't think. I don't think they're going to sweep them. I think they're going to go into Montreal with a lot of confidence that they outplayed Tampa Bay considerably. I think they have a lot of confidence. They outplay Tampa Bay. They play like that. If they outplay Tampa Bay every game from now on here, they'll come back and probably win that series. Unless Vasilevsky can win games like consistently like that. Lauren, how you doing, buddy? We were just talking about the Preds. If Tampa can win either one of those that they're doing, one of those then they're probably a shoe-in for sure. But like we've seen already, Toronto was up 3-1, and Montreal came back. So I was really surprised, and Montreal has surprised me so many times this year. I shouldn't be surprised anymore that Montreal played as well as they did, and Tampa played as poorly as they did. It actually looked to me like Tampa Bay underestimated Montreal last night. Yeah, if the Leafs get Marcus Johansson, I think they pretty much ran out of ideas. Johansson is not really a guy that he's just a utility guy. They could pick him up. I mean, if they really, really need to get more scoring depth. And like guys that can play all different ways, like Coleman. Coleman would be huge, but guys like that. But now Nashville is really interesting. I get a feeling I don't see a rebuild there. I just don't feel like Poile they got Saros and they got that big three. Ekholm is only 31 years old. It all depends on what they think of Fabro. If they think Fabro can play like right away, and then they can add it, the thing is if they let Ekholm go or trade him, do they got to bring another defenseman in? And if they do, is he going to be as good as Ekholm for the money that Ekholm was going to make? Or do they think that Fabro can be as good as Ekholm, as good as next year, and then they can just add some depth defensemen? I think that's very possible. Yeah, I mean, just some bad bounces. If they keep on playing like they did last night, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Montreal can make a series of this. Vasilevsky is the best goalie in the league. And the fact that Fleury won the Vezina doesn't change that. Nice gesture, I guess. That's the thing about the awards, though, is when they do like stuff like they did last night, it takes away from the award as far as I'm concerned. Are you the best or you're not the best? If you're going to have an award, do it that way. If you're just going to have some novelty thing that you give away to certain players because it feels nice, then why even bother? Really, I think Jake Voracek is going to be left out for Seattle to take, and Seattle's not going to take him. Without a doubt, Philadelphia is going to have to retain salary to trade Voracek. No doubt about that. I don't think Voracek gets traded. I do agree that they're probably trying to trade him. I don't believe that he will get traded. The only way they're trading Voracek is if they take like next year's first and tell Seattle, take Voracek and we'll give you next year's first. And hope the heck you're good next year, because that could really come back and bite you in the butt. But with $8 million more to work with, then Philadelphia can be good next year because there's probably some really good players they can bring in. I think he's a good player. He's just on a decline now. He's at that age, and he's a problem in the room, man. The guy is way too negative. That's really the big thing. I mean, when you look at Voracek's actual numbers, they're pretty good, actually. I mean, he got 56 points in 69 games last year. Those are good numbers. He's a playmaker, yeah, but in 2018-19, he's a 66-point winger, 20 goals and 46 points. How old is he? I think he's getting quite up there, though, right? He's big, he's solid. I mean, on the right team, he's only 31 years old, too. On the right team, he could, but it's the $8 million, even though it's only for 2 more years. $8 million for 2 more years. I don't know. Yeah, it's his personality is just really tough on a room, it seems. I think he's got a bonus coming up, too. Yeah, he's got a $5 million signing bonus coming up. So whoever signs him has got to give him a signing bonus on top of it. So, like, since we're talking about Philadelphia, there's been a lot of talk. Of course, I talk a lot about Philadelphia because I'm a Philadelphia fan, but I was never a big Romanoff guy. When they were all saying he was so great, I didn't think he was that great. Like, he's okay. He's okay, but I mean, he's not great. I never really thought he was that great. I don't blame them for not playing him, to tell you the honest truth. So they leave Voracek out. You got Claude Lemieux. No. There's no way he's going to the Leafs. You got to protect Claude Lemieux. Kevin Hayes, you got to reflect. And Van Riemsdyk, you don't protect. Konechny 3, Couturier 4, Oscar Lindblom 5. It's Joel Farabee 6. And Scott Laughton. So probably Obey Kubel gets picked up by Seattle, I would think. He's 25 years old. Or Shane Gostisbehere. Personally, I don't take Shane Gostisbehere if I'm Seattle. He's only 28, maybe you'd give him a shot, because he did play well in the second half. He's only making $4.5 for 2 more years. If he works out, then great. Yeah, they could actually take Gostisbehere. The thing is, for me, if I'm Seattle, even though I might like Gostisbehere, I don't need Gostisbehere. So I'm going to play on the fact that I'm taking Nicholas Obel. I'm going to basically call up Philadelphia and say, with what you've given me, I'm going to take Nicholas Obey Kubel, I should say. And then I'm sure Chuck Fletcher is like going to say, oh, okay, whatever. And then before the draft, he'll call him back and say, what would it take for you to take Gostisbehere? And I would say, like, does Philadelphia can just roll with Gostisbehere too. It's not terrible to keep Gostisbehere after what he did in the second half. So I think it's possible they just say, yeah, take Kubel. And then Seattle says, well, we've been kind of thinking maybe we will take Shane. And then they end up taking Shane instead. It's possible. Or if Philadelphia really had a line on a big winger that they could take, they could say, what would it take for you to get Shane? And you'd say, well, a second round pick. Give us a second and we'll take Shane instead. And they'll be like, well, that's too high, forget about it. And they'll come back and say, okay, give us a third. And we'll take Gostisbehere off your hands. Or let us take Kubel and Gostisbehere. And then we'll let it go. But as it stands, I think one of those two guys are gone. You hear that Maine Mariners hockey is now part, the ECHL. The Maine Mariners are going to be the ECHL team. Jake Voracek would not, what would it take to get Jake Voracek over as a Leaf? It actually makes sense on paper. He would play well with Matthews probably, but how do you do it? They have no cap room at all. There's no way that Philadelphia is going to take that much back. They'd have to take a player back. The ECHL. Yeah, that'd be like him playing with children. Vasilevsky's save percentage would be probably like .999, something like that. We got 8 minutes left. What more news was there? You would have to put a second round pick on Justin Braun to get him to go there. For them to take Justin Braun, I would take Justin Braun if I'm Seattle. If you gave me a second rounder, maybe even more than a second rounder. If you were to give me like a second and a fourth, or Obey Kubel, but even then, why would you? Braun's contract isn't even that bad. So, wouldn't make sense. I don't think Seattle's not taking Justin Braun off their hands, that's for sure. I like Saros. Why not? Go Saros. To get another goaltender to play with Saros? Probably going to have to do that unless they re-sign Rene again, which if he wants to play. But it really looked like Rene was done. It's also possible that they got somebody in the minors that we haven't seen that looks really good for them, and they want to give him a shot. I'll take a look here. Who do they got? Thomas Vomaka? I have no idea who that is. Thomas Vomaka. 5th rounder in 2017. He put up, he's in NCAA. He didn't put the greatest numbers up in NCAA, so I think they'd have to go get another goaltender now, yeah. There's probably a lot available out there just to be a backup. Because, I said that before, but then when I looked at it, it turned out that maybe it wasn't. They could go get Allen from Montreal, because Allen's probably... They could give Montreal a fourth or something and take Allen off their hands. because Allen will probably get picked up by Seattle if they don't. Oh, of course. I'll talk about the draft all day, man. I can't wait for the draft. It's like my favorite time of year. Oh, maybe he goes back to Boston just as a novelty thing to say that he retired in Boston. Maybe. But other than that, no. There's a good question. How much money do I think Frederik Andersen will get? I think he's going to take a one-year deal. I think Frederik Andersen will take a one-year deal to show that he's not injured anymore. And it won't be for that much either. Probably like 3 million, 3 million, something like that, maybe 4. And like if you were to do a performance bonus laden deal, like even 2.5 million, but if you play this many games, you get this much. If you play this many games, that you get that much. If you play games in the playoffs, you get that much. Like just bonus laden deal. And then if he does that, he might just stay in Toronto. But it all depends on what the doctors are saying for him. Draft is like Christmas, yeah. Draft, the trade deadline, and free agency. But I think the draft is my favorite. I love the draft. Well, like I said, they're not going to. If we'll find out what Boston's doing if they keep Hall and, because then they got to keep Krejci. Yeah, we were talking about that quite a bit before. I think Minnesota Wild will be in heavy for Eichel. I also think I think LA will be too, but that was the other thing I was the Arvidsson deal made me wonder about whether they're still in on Eichel, because that's really what got me wondering. They've got, what's their cap space? LA's only got 50 million in cap space after they traded for Arvidsson. Now the deal, they could still take Eichel. Dustin Brown comes off the books next year, and if they do re-sign him, it'll be for a lot cheaper. But they do got to re-sign Adrian Kempe. Gabriel Velarde's will get an increase next year, but it won't be that much. It'll be probably a bridge. And then Michael Anderson will probably get a little bit of an increase. But they should be able to handle that $10 million contract with Arvidsson there. So they could still be in on Eichel. They could very well still be in on Eichel. And that actually makes sense that they went after a cheaper winger like Arvidsson if they were going after Eichel. So, yeah, it doesn't really affect them. But it's to me, it's between Minnesota and LA or the Rangers. I think there'll be a lot of other teams wanting to get in there, but I think those teams will outbid just about anybody. Yeah, he'll stay in Minnesota. He's just posturing for more money. He's just posturing for more money. And that's going to be the other thing. If Minnesota wants to go for Eichel, they got to pretty much give Kaprizov a bridge deal. Yeah, especially teams like Arizona talking about trading Garland. I mean, if they trade Garland, they might as well just fold up, man. Like, if Arizona trades Garland for picks, they're going to have nothing on that. Like, they are going to be absolutely a deplorably horrible team next year. The reason why they signed Turney is because they probably signed him up for like $1 million, or like a really low. They don't have any money. Yeah, I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I don't know about the New York Rangers. They're going to have to give up a lot to get him. Uh, and the fact that they're going to have to pay more because they're in the East, right? Who's already handcuffed with the cap, Lauren? Well, Arizona. I mean, you can't trade Garland though. Actually, if I was Garland, I'd want to leave. Like, I don't even know why he'd want to stay, to tell you the honest truth. He's only 25 years old. He got 39 points in 49 games last year. He's 2 years away from free agency. So I'd want to sign him up. They got lots of cap space. I'd sign him up like $7 million for the next 8 years or something like that. But I just have a feeling they have no money. If they trade Garland, they just have no money at all. Like, they are done. Pretty much no money whatsoever. I think trading Garland sort of signals the likelihood that they're not going to have a team. And you're right, it is doggy time. That's why everybody's leaving. I know it's doggy time because everybody's leaving. They'll come back after this. You shouldn't. Get your doggies out. Let's do doggy time. We're gonna have another sponsor here soon too. We're getting sponsors like crazy, you guys. It's crazy. So, because people love us. That's and they should, because it's great programming. Okay, here we go.
Greetings. This is Steel Flyers from the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. They've taken care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. And both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God.
All right, we're back. Okay, I'm thinking we're going to go full on hardcore trades now. We're going to do some solving of some teams' problems. I'm going to put it right up on the... I'm going to get my window capture going. Oh, yeah. You know things are getting serious. We're getting seriously nerdy here when we get the window capture up, my friends. Yeah, buddy. Full-on nerdship right here. Coming at ya. All right? You all ready? All right. Let's go. Okay, we need to get cop friendly because cop friendly, it's the best there. I said it. Oh, first I got to do something here. Alrighty. Okay. Full on nerdy here now. Make sure you guys can see that alright. Okay. So, let's say Arizona does something stupid and trades Connor Garland. Where do you think he goes? He would be like, he's a restricted free agent, so whoever would trade for him would have to sign him. But he's restricted. They could get a lot for him. They could take a player back, but it doesn't sound like they want any players. Like, they would have to take. I would love them in Edmonton. Now that Nashville just did what they did, I bet you they would be in on Connor Garland quite a bit. Nashville Predators. They could use that, but Colorado Avalanche. Colorado Avalanche could trade. Okay, Garland's probably asking for something like $4 million for the next 3 years. So you could get like Tyson Jost and possibly a first-round pick or something like that. That's the thing is, I don't even know what the value for Garland right now. It could be, it's something like that. It's a prospect and a first-round pick. If you're going to take the full salary cap off their hands, it's probably going to be something like the poor Tyson Jost, if that was the deal that came out. But imagine if Colorado took on that, they would be so freaking stacked. It'd be absolutely insane. You could put JT Compher in the middle. Nazem Kadri could go down to the third spot. And you could have Garland, Compher, and Nichushkin as your second line. Yeah, I could see Colorado doing something like that. You think Avs go after Dougie Hamilton? Okay, let's look at what that would look like. I don't. Why would you say that though? Like, oh, what info? Yeah, we knew that. Bill, we were talking. We know that. We've known that the Kings traded for Victor Arvidsson this morning. We were talking about that. Hamilton to the New York Rangers makes some sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually. But to Colorado, what makes you think he'd go to Colorado? Because they've got so many defensemen already. You think they're going to trade one of their other defensemen for some forwards? Maybe. Philadelphia would be good for Garland. Yeah, I would love that. There's a shooter we've been looking for right there. Yes, absolutely. We got to sign Carter Hart. It's actually maybe not a bad thing. As long as Carter Hart has a good year next year, he's going to get poopty money now after that year last year. So we could give them, why not give them this year's first for Connor Garland? Like, just blow everybody right out of the water. Give them our 14th pick for Connor Garland. Connor Garland is exactly the type of player you want with that 14th pick. Yeah, I think Philadelphia would be fantastic for that, dude. Nice one. Nice one. Let's get some hype in the chat for these great guys. Hamilton. I would like Lauren to tell me what made him think the Avs would go for Lauren, because he might know something I don't. I just think that maybe the Avs are so stacked already on D that because they have so many great defensemen there, like young defensemen there, that I don't know if they would need to do that. But if they used one of those young defensemen to get a forward, maybe you got something there. But Hamilton's going to be like $9 million. Goligoski to Vegas? I can see Goligoski going to a lot of places, actually. But yeah, Vegas kind of makes sense. Read the chat. Okay, did you tell? Okay, where did I miss? They have space and might want a bigger target. Okay, what are they going to do with their young guys? You think they're going to trade them for forwards or something like that? It's an interesting concept. I just never thought of it. I like the Hamilton to the New York Rangers one. But if we traded, okay, oh, see, that's the thing. Garland would be fantastic. But we still got Jacob Voracek sitting over our butts here. However, we'd have some killer depth. I would play, if we can't get rid of Voracek, I would play Garland with Hayes and Farabee, and Voracek would play on the third line with Lawton and we got to get rid of one of these guys. Like, what's Philadelphia's? They have no cap room at all, and they'd have to sign Garland. We got to get rid of either Voracek or so we can make a deal like this. I think $13 million. $13 million in cap space, and we got to sign Carter Hart, and we got Sean Couturier coming up next year too. So I love the idea of Garland going to Philadelphia, but they got to get rid of, especially they got to get rid of one of those two contracts, I think. Tarasenko to the New York Islanders. It's easy if you can get rid of Voracek, but how do you get rid of Voracek? That's the question. How the heck do you get rid of Voracek? I think, Whitechel, I think you could be right. The Blues are sort of going on a, I don't know if it's a complete rebuild, but certainly going to a dip here, grabbing some picks and then trying to come back up again. I think that would definitely be accurate for sure. Eric Johnson's going to retire. Well, if Eric Johnson retires, then you never know. Yeah, they could go after Hamilton, like I said, but they just, oh yeah, I was going to look that up. Implicit! Buy who out, White Joe? Voracek? He can't. He's got too much left on his contract. Yeah, you'd have too much. It would eat up a lot of. Maybe you have no choice. I don't know. And he's got a $5 million bonus coming up, and you can't buy out the bonus. It's the way his salary is structured. You don't even get much cap space because of it. Let me bring up Colorado here. Can you guys see this all right? Probably not, eh? You probably can't even see that. I'm showing it. Tell me if you can see it or not. Colorado Avalanche. Okay. But I want to get into that Tarasenko to the Islanders. I think they'd have to take Ladd back and then some picks or something like that. But Ladd's probably going on the IR, so maybe not. Like, okay, you said they get Hamilton. Okay. Eric Johnson retires. So they pull Hamilton. And you've got Taves, Makar, Girard, Hamilton. Right as it stands right now, they'll lose Graves. Yeah, it could work. Oh, that's what's forgetting. Bowen Byram, though. You would have Taves, Makar, Girard, Hamilton, Bowen Byram, and Timmins as your top six. That is just stupid. That would be insane. You could be, I mean, it could work. If Johnson's going to be gone, they could get him, and they'd still have cap room to add to their top 6. That's ridiculous. Holy crap. Any more defensemen coming up? Probably crap loads. They still got Justin Barron, who is probably not going to be ready for a bit. How did he do last year? He got 31 points in 33 games for the Q. He's huge. He's a big dude, from what I remember. 6'2", 188, yeah. Tarasenko, I don't think Tarasenko works in Vegas. If they're going to get anybody there, they're going to get a center. But Tarasenko's so tough, though. He had 2 shoulder injuries. Oh, yeah, I was going to look at the Islanders. The Islanders might take a risk on that because they so desperately need a shooter. They desperately need a shooter. But they have no cap room whatsoever. What could they possibly give up to get Tarasenko that makes sense for both sides? If they're really dissatisfied with Jordan Eberle, they could do that, I suppose. Yeah, they'll go get Philip Forsberg. I would say that. I would say that then they're going to sign Hall because Hall wants to stay there. So if they don't sign Hall, the only reason why they wouldn't sign Hall and they would take Forsberg is if they were really balling Hall and saying, we're only going to give you like $2.5, $3 million or something like that. And they think Forsberg is way better because they're going to have to trade for Forsberg to get Forsberg. So they're going to have to give up assets to get him. I think they'll probably be offering Hall about 5. And I think Hall will bite on that 5. See, here's the thing about that. And I love hockey take. I wish I could have Hot Take Hockey on here. When you're on there, Bill, ask him, tell him to come on my show with me. That would be freaking awesome. But look at what Taylor Hall did. It all makes sense now looking back on it, okay? He wanted to be in Boston all along. Boston wanted to give DeBrusk another chance and see, they didn't want to spend a lot of money at that time to bring Hall in before the season started, okay? They probably only wanted to pay Hall around maybe the $4 million or something like that. Last year, I'm talking about here, okay? So, Taylor Hall goes to Buffalo and says, what are you guys going to do? I'll sign an $8 million 1 year, okay, which is too much for him per season. But Taylor Hall knows, or probably has talked to Boston and said, if things don't work out, we'll give you a call at the trade deadline. And then you can come over and we'll offer you the same sort of contract. So Taylor Hall says, I'll take the biggest number I can get on a 1 year. And that'll make up for the loss that I'm going to take over my next contract. So it's almost like he got $3 more million. So if he signs a 3-year, $15 million contract, it's almost like he signed a $16 million contract. You understand what I'm saying? So Taylor Hall's agent played that out pretty well. Take a big year this year, and then, then take a discount to stay in Boston after that. And you're really not taking a discount because you made the money in the 1 year. Good idea. Smart move. Travis Konechny to the Leafs. I'm sure the Leafs would love Travis Konechny, but I don't know what they'd be giving back. I said this before, that Philadelphia should have been going after Nylander a while back. Now, I don't know you could ever get him, but I don't know if you could have got him back then. I don't know. But I had an offer of Konechny. I don't even think you guys can see this, so I'm going to turn off my live stream. Could you guys see that? You guys can't even see that, so I'm going to turn off my windows. I'll tell you in a second. I had an offer of Konechny, and the Philadelphia Flyers fans were losing their mind saying, we would never do that, blah, 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 blah. It would have looked really good right now, I'll tell you that. Let's go to Cap. I had an offer. Philadelphia Flyers. I gave an offer. It was for Nylander, like 2 years ago. I said Konechny, Sanheim, and a first-round pick. 2 years ago, I said Philadelphia should offer Konechny, Sanheim, and a first-round pick. And the Philadelphia Flyers fans are losing their minds, like, that I was talking to. They're like, that's an overpayment, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you don't understand how good Nylander is at all. Just imagine if they had Nylander right now. Like, take Konechny out, take Sanheim out. We can find another defenseman. Sanheim's fairly replaceable. And the first-round pick would have been, it's Forster. It would have been tough to swallow a little bit, but not that bad. Because I was thinking that maybe Toronto would want to, now if you tried to do it now, you'd have to give more than that to get him by a long shot. You would do it now? If I offered you Konechny, Sanheim, and a first right now, you would trade Nylander to Philadelphia? Done. That deal is done. I'll do that yesterday all day. Sweet. Tell him to come on my show. Or have me on his show. I'll come in on his show sometime. I'll do a live with Hot Take John. That would be freaking awesome. Yeah, that deal would be one-sided for Philly, right? Nice. Thanks, Bill. I love John from Hot Take Hockey. I wish I could talk to him a lot more than I do. I'm so busy with the channel, with my... Where people get their BS. What do you mean by that, Lauren? Yeah. Every time you're on a stream with Hot Take Hockey, you just keep on telling them to give me a call. Come over and say hi. He hasn't been on he used to come on my live stream sometimes, but he hasn't been on for a while. He's a great dude. He's an awesome guy. I like him a lot. But interesting. Like I said, I don't know what Konechny would get you. Like, I would still do a deal for Nylander right now. if I could figure out enough to get him. But I don't think we'd have enough. We'd have to give up Farabee. I really don't like giving up Farabee. I would do it straight across, but yeah, that's right. They're not going to sign him before the expansion draft for sure. I don't think Nolan Patrick's going to get traded. I think they're going to give him one more year of conditioning and see what he does after that. I mean, his value is so low right now that you might as well give him one more year and see if he can rebound, because the value is not going to get much lower anyways. So I think they're just going to keep Patrick. Yeah, they'll wait for free agency a day and sign Hall. If they probably got a deal in their back pocket already. But I mean, if they sign him, then they'll definitely sign Krejci. And if they sign both of them, we didn't talk about that. Also, Bill was talking about goaltenders. I heard it on Sirius Radio. They were talking about goaltenders for Boston. I should get my free agency up here. And they agreed with me. If they do sign some guy, he's going to be a journeyman guy that's not going to be, that'll be okay to go down into the minors. It'll probably be a journeyman guy that will sign a one-year deal. They can sign a guy to like a $750,000 one-year deal, but he'll get sent down to the minors halfway through. I am hearing, and this is what I said from the beginning, I really think Rask is done. That surgery he's going to do on his hip at his age, I have a feeling that Rask is just going to retire. Rask is not a guy that's going to put his future physical life on the line for hockey. He's just not that guy. So if there's a question of how it's going to affect him later on in life, I have a feeling that Connor Garland to the Leafs would be great for them. But again, what are you going to? It's all about what are you going to give it back, Whitechel. You can tell me what Toronto can give back. I just don't see much there that they can give back. And also with the cap, you got to sign Garland. So Thomas Greiss seems like a good one, but I don't think Thomas Greiss would be too happy to go down into the minors. There's probably a team out there that'll use Thomas Greiss as a, for sure backup. Now, if Thomas Greiss can't find a spot where he's like a for sure backup, then maybe, yeah, he'll sign the one-year deal and he knows he's getting his full $750,000 or whatever. But I mean, he's a pretty solid backup. He could just stay in Detroit, and Detroit would probably keep him because Detroit really still doesn't have a goaltender ready. So I have a feeling he'll just stay in Detroit for the what was he making last year? What was he making last year? He was making 3.6. Okay. Oh, he's still got 1 year at 3.6. There's no way. He can't go to Boston. He's still got 3.6 left on his contract. He probably just stays in Detroit. If I'm Seattle, I would consider taking Thomas Greiss. Because you don't really, what does it matter who your goaltender is? You're not really caring about winning anyways. There's no way he's going to Boston. No, Bernier's not going to Boston too. Bernier's going to make even more than that. He's had stellar years. Bernier's probably going to sign about $5 million for the next couple of years, something like that, I would think. they're going to get a journeyman guy, like literally a journeyman guy. Like a guy that Boston's not going to be too happy with the goaltender they're going to get. They're not going to be too happy. I seriously think that you just might as well stick with Halak. If Halak is willing to go to the minors, if you can get him to stay there. But like Calvin Pickard or Scott Wedgwood, would just happy to get another 1-year contract at $700,000. Guys like that, that's what I'm talking about here. Curtis McElhaney. I don't know if he'd be happy going down to the minors, though. He might just retire. He's made a lot of money in his career. Corey Schneider, maybe. Guys like that. Yeah, that would be insane if they traded Clayton Keller. Like I said, trading Garland and Keller and all of those guys like that. You're basically just saying we're not going to be in Arizona much longer. They basically know that they're out of Arizona soon if they do that. James Reimer, possibly. You'd have to look at who needs goaltenders. There's a lot of goaltenders available and not many spots. So once everybody gets their goaltender, then whatever the list is left after that would probably sign that contract to basically so they can go down to the minors, that they don't mind going down in the minors. The Pittsburgh Penguins, you got to think the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be looking for somebody. I have a feeling that they could lose DeSmith. They got to be looking for somebody beside Jari. Tampa Bay's is going to need somebody. CJ Anderson? I don't even know who that is. It's pretty much a lateral move, trading Koskinen. I don't know. I think Koskinen's pretty much untradeable. I think they're going to buy him out. Yeah, you could get Koskinen because he's probably going to get bought out. And I don't know. He's an okay backup. But again, okay, let's look at some teams that are going to need to look at getting a backup this year. Washington Capitals are likely going to still need one. If Allen goes to Seattle, Montreal's going to need one. And they're probably not going to go cheap on that. They're probably going to do the same thing they did last year. So that would be somebody like possibly Koskinen or, some of the guys you mentioned there. That's where Grice could go if he doesn't go to Detroit, Montreal. Mrazek will probably get overpaid by somebody. Mrazek will actually end up all these goaltenders are going to get really poopty contracts, I think. There's just not enough positions available to go around. There's not enough openings. Buffalo Sabres are going to need to get a goaltender because I don't think Allmark's going to sign back with them. Maybe he will. If they give him enough money, he might sign back because he probably isn't going to get a number one spot anywhere else. The New Jersey Devils, somebody to back up Blackwood, probably. And then the Seattle Kraken. So Boston might end up getting somebody not too bad for fairly cheap because with all the goaltenders available and all the spots available, they'll just have to wait out who's left after everybody that needs a goaltender gets their goaltender. And, there's some, what backups are going to be available. I would say DeSmith would work out pretty good. What's DeSmith making? Because Pittsburgh might lose DeSmith for nothing. He was only making 1.25. Casey DeSmith played in the minors. Casey DeSmith, maybe. Possibly. If Arizona's selling everything off, Darcy Kemper could be one of them. What's his contract like, Darcy Kemper? Now, if I was Toronto, I wouldn't even be bothering with Anderson. If Darcy Kemper's available, I'd be all over that. All over that. That's where I would be putting my money if I was Toronto. I would be putting it on the best goaltender I could find. He's $4.5 million this year, and then he's a UFA. He's going to be 32 years old. Somebody, if they don't keep him, if he says he doesn't want to stay in Arizona, I suppose they can trade him and run with Adin Hill. That Adin Hill's not a number one. But again, like I said, I don't think Arizona's even trying to win next year, so. Might take Vanacek. There's one there, Vanacek. Boston could go see if Washington would be willing to trade them Vanacek. Because they're going to lose him for nothing anyways, right? Vanacek probably wouldn't mind playing the minors as long as it's a one-way deal. And then if Rask doesn't come back, you've still got Vanacek. That's a good play, Lauren. I like that. Oh, Craig Anderson from Washington. What am I talking about? I know who Craig Anderson is. That could work, I suppose. It's not ideal, but I don't know if Craig Anderson would go down to the minors. He's been playing a long time. His wife has been sick. I don't think he goes down to the minors. I don't think he'll sign a deal where he goes down the minors. I think he'd retire before he'd do that. I could be wrong. Maybe those hospital bills demand him to make more money, I guess. Antti Raanta could go anywhere that somebody's willing to take a risk on a guy that never stops being injured. If he could ever stop being injured, he's a number one goaltender, yeah. Vanacek, yeah. Vanacek would make sense because he's young for Seattle for sure. If Washington doesn't trade him beforehand. Or if Washington doesn't give them a pick to stay away from him. That's possible too. They may say, well, let's go give you our first this year, don't touch Vanacek. And I'd be like, okay, Vanacek's not that great. So I'll take your first. If they have, I think they already traded their first. Nick Schmaltz, probably. Nick Schmaltz, yeah, probably. There's a guy that would be good for a lot of teams. He's making $5.5 million for ages. That's an interesting one for sure. And then basically, but they got to still get the cap floor. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to reach the cap floor. They'll just go grab everybody's hurt players and get to the cap floor and then basically have nothing. They got to keep some of their players. I don't know if Vladar will ever be ready. He's got a lot of holes, Bill. Vladar, he could be, but I mean, he still could be a backup eventually, but he's got a lot of holes. He wouldn't be my first guy. I wouldn't want to roll with him. If you're trying to make the playoffs, if you're signing Taylor Hall and you're signing Krejci, you got to get a goaltender. I really like trading for Vanacek. I think that's a good move. I think that is a really good move. It probably won't cost you much. Unless Washington can work out a deal with Seattle that they stay away from Vanacek. But they could, there's lots of goaltenders left out there. Losing Vanacek isn't going to kill them because their guy is Samsonov. So we just talked about a whole bunch of goaltenders out there that they could go out and grab. I would trade Vanacek, get like a third round pick or whatever for him. And I think that would be good for Boston. He's not the veteran you're really looking for to help Swayman, though. I guess that would be the problem. That would be the problem with that deal, is he's not the veteran. I will be surprised if they go for Halak. Halak looks like his career is done. And I think you can get a better player than Halak from Boston. Jake Allen, very likely. But to tell you the honest truth, I wouldn't take Jake Allen. I would take Armia. I would take Armia from Montreal. I'm not even worried about my goaltending if I'm Seattle. If I'm building Seattle, I don't even care. Why would I want a good goaltender like Jake Allen? Unless I'm going to trade him for a pick. I like a big player with some upside in Armia. Somebody like that. A guy that could still be on my team 5-6 years from now. Give him an opportunity to see what he can do to score. Let's look at some other players from Montreal that you could do. Because they're going to protect 1, 2, 3. They'll probably leave Paul Byron available. I wouldn't take him anyways. I think Suzuki's got to be protected 5. Oh, they might even protect Armia. No, they could leave Tatar off. Yeah, no, he's a free agent. They might even protect Armia. Never mind. Oh, for sure they're going to go young. I think I would take Brett Kulak. I would take Brett Kulak before I took Allen. He's only 27 years old. His analytics are fantastic. I would take Brett Kulak, probably. But defensemen are going to be hard because there's going to be a lot of defensemen to choose from. And it looks like they're going to be able to sign Armia. Or they're going to be able to protect Armia. I just really like Armia. Byron to Boston, that makes sense. Byron, if they want to trade him, he's got term left. I think they like him quite a bit. I don't think they'll want to, but I mean, I don't think they'll protect him either. So, but I don't think Seattle will take him. He's too old for them. Unless they want to get like him for leadership, because he's a great leader. He's an assistant there. He's an assistant there in Montreal, so if they want to get him for some leadership, then yeah, I could see it. Christian Dvorak to the Leafs. If Christian Dvorak's available, the lineup to get Christian Dvorak will be pretty darn long, I would say. He's one of the most underrated players in the league right now. Gaudreau, yeah. I mean, again, there's another one where there's going to be Gaudreau's going to get a lot of money. Gaudreau and Coleman are both going to get a lot of money. You considered an overpayment, but I mean, it all depends. I think teams are seeing so much value in guys like Gaudreau and Coleman right now. Teams are seeing so much value in that we may be surprised to see how much money they make. Like Gaudreau, what did he get? Was he only making $1 million or something like that? What was he making? $925,000. Gaudreau was making $925,000. He had 20 points in 55 games. He's going to have possibly 2 rings on his fingers. You know, he can play up and down your lineup. I think he's going to get $3.5 million from somewhere. And that could come from, if he wants to go if I'm Seattle, that's the free agent I'm going for. I'm going for guys like that all day long. I'm calling up, I'll overpay for guys like that. Because those are the guys that I want to show my new players what it means to be a professional. So he's only 28 years old too. So I would give Barclay Goodrow, if I'm Seattle, like a 5-year, $20 million contract, $4 million a year. Because I'm not going to be relevant for 5 years. Likely. Possibly not. I could get lucky and nail a whole bunch of great picks and fly out of the, and do really well before that. But, so he would be the guy. I don't think I'd go any longer than that though, because the way he plays at 33, he may be pushing a little more than I want to pay. But 4 years, 5 years if I'm Seattle, I'm all over that. That's what I want. And Coleman too. Bring them both in. Coleman and Goudreau as a package, if I'm Seattle. He got 31 points last year. Toss him $5 million. Same thing. $5 million for, how old is he? How old is Coleman? He's 29. Same thing. 4 years, $5 million. And those would be my identity players for Seattle. He can put up points. He can play hard. He's a champion. He's a warrior. Those are warrior guys. And everybody you bring in, just say, watch those guys and be like those guys. I think I'd be overpriced. I think I'd outprice just about everybody if I was Seattle, if I offered both of those guys that kind of money. I don't think anybody, I could be wrong, but I doubt anybody would match that. Maybe somebody's going to go crazy for Coleman over that. But I'm going to have cap space coming out of my yin-yang. And I just want two guys that are going to be the identities for my franchise. They're going to already have played with each other. They'll be happy to play. You know, I don't know if they want to go on a rebuilding team, but they just won 2 cups. So it's possible they'd be like, well, we won 2 cups. Why don't we go take the money? And I'll give them tons of money. And they can live in Seattle till almost their retirement. What do you guys think of that? Goudreau, yeah, they just can't. Goudreau's going to make too much money than they could afford. Now, I mean, if Goudreau gets 3.5, he could be your new. Goudreau could be your new Hyman. I don't think Goudreau's as good as Hyman though. I realize as a general manager of Seattle, I'm overpaying for Goudreau at 4. I might even be able to get him at 3.5. $3.5 million for a long-term contract. I don't know how many. I don't think there's too many teams that are going to want to give Goudreau 4 or 5 years. So I might even get him at 3.5 for 5 years. And you know, I realize that's probably an overpayment for what he is, but I go as high as 4. I would love to have Goudreau as an Edmonton Oilers fan. Love, love, love. But even as an Edmonton Oilers fan, I don't think I want to pay him that much. With the players I got to re-sign and everything like that, I think Seattle would definitely outbid me for. If I'm an Oilers general manager, Holland, I'm sure he'd be calling on the phone. But once it got up to $3-4 million for 5 years, I think he'd be out. I think just about any GM would be out, to tell you the honest truth. I don't think there's too many players. The only one that might not be out is Arizona might do it. For the same reason. Arizona is pretty much like having an expansion team again right now. So, you know, they might do it for the same reason. I'm going to go long here, by the way, so guys stick around. I'm going to go long here. I don't need to go pick up my wife today because it's a holiday. So I got a few people on here. I might as well push the envelope a little bit. David Savard goes back to Boston. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know what David Savard's going to get paid. That's going to be interesting what David Savard gets paid, because he goes to Tampa Bay and they're only playing him like 11 minutes a night. 10, 11 minutes. Now they're a pretty deep team. But I don't know. I could see that though. Yeah, Goudreau would definitely be a Montreal type player. It all depends on who's gonna see the value in a Goudreau. Like I said, if I'm Seattle, I'm going as high as $4 million a year. So I don't know if any team, that's going to be pretty steep for any team out there, even Montreal. Montreal Canadiens will take a look at it. I agree, though, that they would be interested in a player like that. They've shown it over and over again. If they can't re-sign Corey Perry, but Corey Perry's on is not even much of a cap hit. They could give him Paul Byron type money, but you might as well keep Paul Byron then. What does Montreal have for cap space this year? $10 million. $10 million projected cap space. They got Gustafsson, Merrill. It's next year that could be the problem. for them. They have Ben Sherratt to sign next year and Joel Edmondson. Ben Sherratt's going to get more than $3.5 million on his next contract. That's for sure. And Suzuki next year, and woo, wow. Yeah, I don't know. They may. Montreal's a team that just might see the value in a guy like Gaudreau at that price. That's a pretty, they would possibly see the value. There might even be more teams than that to see the value in that at that price. Los Angeles may see the value in that. Nashville might see the value in that if they've got the cap space to do it. It's possible. You really have to appreciate what it means to have a guy that can skate like Gaudreau, play physical like that, and still pot you 30 points in a season, you know. You got to really, and a warrior type guy. I still think, and Montreal showed this year, I still think teams get maybe a little too caught up sometimes in just stats alone. Like Gaudreau brings stuff that stats don't show. But it's got to be, you can also get that for cheaper too. So another team that could see the value is Ottawa. Where's Gaudreau from? No, I already think Gaudreau was American, right? I think we already checked that out. Montreal, maybe. I could see Ottawa Senators seeing the value in that in Gaudreau. But $3.5, $4 million, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they already got their Kachuk and stuff like that. It's possible. I don't see Ottawa spending that much money on role players like that. They're just not money. They're too money conscious to do that, I think. They're also not in the cap floor. I mean, Gaudreau or Coleman would be great for Carolina. They need that type of player, but I don't even think they would be able to go as high as I'm saying for like Seattle. Then maybe nobody thinks like I do. Seattle doesn't think about that, and they're able to get Gaudreau for like $2 million. Then he could go anywhere. Like if he's just going to go $2 million or 2.5. He could go to all the places you're saying. Like wherever he wants to go, he could go, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, you basically would be going for the money there. I think the Ducks would really have to pay them much like Seattle to go to someplace like that because they're not going to be ready for a cup for a while. But then again, they just won 2 cups. So if there's something in, where's Coleman from again? I keep on mentioning it. I know, he's from Texas. I mean, I'm sure Dallas would love to have a Coleman because they love those kind of players. But their cap space, I'm pretty sure, is pretty crappy. $15 million projected, and they would probably love to keep Alexiak. They may lose him though. You got Lindell, Klingberg, Sekera, Joel Hanley. They could re-sign Mark Pysyk, and they got to sign they got to sign Heiskanen. Holy crap! That'll be a tough one. But I mean, he's from Texas. If he wants to shave it off a bit and take like $3-4 million, I'm sure they'd be happy to have him in Dallas. Yeah, I mean, he could. I wouldn't think that would be a wise move. As the Sharks have very little cap space, and he was traded from the Sharks, and they don't really look like they have a great future. But if he loved San Jose, I suppose. But if I'm him, this is his money contract. He's going to go for the money. I think he gets about $3.5 million from somewhere. 3.5 to 4, 3.5. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe $2.5 million. It's really hard to say. It's hard to see what teams value sometimes in a cap world where they're just going to try to find Gaudreaus for cheaper. It's very possible they just try to find Gaudreaus for cheaper. Panthers make sense. The Panthers does make sense, actually, yes. I could see that. Anyways, I think it's just you and me now, John. I should probably head out. I got my wife's home here, so get to hang out with her. Stuff like that. This was good times. I will be on tomorrow. Same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody. See you, John. Okay, bye.